Hey, everybody, welcome to the SCB Steelers Inside Blitz, presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. This is our short form podcast, which I did take a little bit of a break last week from it and messed around with YouTube Shorts a tad. I'll be messing around with that a little bit more as well. And as our longtime watcher and follower, Steelers Freak, mentioned, he thought I looked a lot like Friar Tuck last week. So there's far worse I could look like, quite frankly. So thanks, Freak. In any case, on this quick show here tonight, just a couple of things to discuss, and of course we'll dive much more into everything Steelers coming up on the regular show on Thursday night at 10 p.m. Um, the first is not an uncommon topic these days, which of course is Aaron Rodgers. But the more I keep thinking about it, um, I think I've gone from kind of being upset at Aaron Rodgers for delaying this and dragging it out, and this is just not something that we're used to as Steelers fans. We're just not, um, and it's frustrating. But the further we get into the spring and eventually the summer, I start to blame Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin, and to an extent Art Rooney too, even more. And I say that because if they are so reliant on this man who is 41 and he'll be 42 at some point during the season, early December, I think it is, then that concerns me significantly, because if you're a football fan, that one of the most important aspects of any football team having success is the ability to work together, not just every play, but in those moments of adversity, where the clock's against you, the crowd's against you, the officials are against, everything's going wrong, and you've got to have the ability to overcome that adversity, and you got to have cohesion, and that all, in my opinion, is created during the months that are going on right now, May and into June, and then of course when training camp rolls around. And I keep coming back to the fact that I struggle with what it's going to look like when and if Aaron Rodgers does sign and come play with the Steelers. And let's assume that he shows up at training camp, because we've seen his history. He doesn't like the OTA stuff. And I'm not saying I blame him. But if he skips the mini camp, which will be the final thing prior to the players having about 6 weeks off and then coming back for training camp, I then he will not have had anything other than one throwing session with DK Metcalf. That's it. That's it. That's all he will have had that any of us know about. Okay. And he's going to show up at camp, and he's supposed to just go down there on the field at St. Vincent College, and whether he's running his offense or Arthur Smith's offense, some combination of the two, who the hell knows? But imagine being Darnell Washington, Jalen Warren, Broderick Jones, Pat Fryermuth. Imagine being these guys, and you're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort, and a guy shows up that he's going to walk into the Hall of Fame. 4 MVPs, he's won a Super Bowl. But still, how far does that get you? Because I just don't see cohesion happening. I don't see the ability to work together under pressure happening. You have to build that stuff up, and this isn't the old days. This isn't the Chuck Noll Steelers when you had literally 3-a-day practices. Okay, when you were out on the fields at St. Vincent for hours and hours and hours. Now you get a few hours on the field, you might get a walkthrough, and then you get lots of classroom time and everything else. And that increases the chances that your team is not going to be able to come together as quickly. Some teams do, they still do. They find a way, and some teams don't. But I I can't imagine that Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin and AR2 are thrilled about that. That's what they're going to do. They're going to show up in Latrobe, and they're going to just say, "Okay, Aaron, come on in. It's your show now." How about Mason Rudolph, man? I've never been a big Mason supporter. I hated the fact that we drafted him, and it had nothing to do with him. I just didn't like wasting a third on that at that time. But that's water under the bridge. He's doing everything right now. He's the guy, and he's just going to have to step aside, and I can't imagine that's going to sit real well with him. And we don't need a disgruntled quarterback room. That is the guaranteed measure of failure, quite frankly, in my book. So, do I wish Aaron Rodgers would just show up? Yeah, I do. But I also understand if he's not under any pressure or obligation to do so, I get why he's not. And ultimately, I think this falls squarely on the shoulders of the Steelers right now. Also, this week, the owners are meeting, and a couple of things. We know the Tush Push will likely be voted on this week. Look, it's no secret. Roger Goodell wants it out. The Packers have reshaped, if you will, their earlier proposal from the earlier meetings. And I think what this is going to do is be a more of a blanket type thing in which they just completely remove the ability to assist a runner in any way, shape, or form, pick him up, push him, any of that stuff. And sadly, that's going to take away from those great moments of seeing the pile get pushed. The runner gets stopped 10 yards downfield, the linemen come plowing forward and move the pile. And I don't know how you officiate that, to be honest with you, because there, you've got so many guys in there. How do you know if a guy's being pushed himself? How do you know if he's not turning the legs? I mean, there's just so many issues with that. And that's why I really wish they would have just focused strictly on, and maybe they will, but just strictly on the tush push, because I see it as a rugby play. I don't like it. I've never liked it. And I also see it as taking away the creativity that we expect these coaches who are paid millions of dollars to come up with on a third and short or a fourth and short. It gets boring. I don't want to watch a team just come up on 4th and 1.5 or 2 and just do a rugby scrum. Why bother? I'd rather see something creative, and I'd rather see the defense actually have a chance to stop it. So we'll see how that goes. But my gut feeling is it's going to go down, which will make the people in Philly and Buffalo very unhappy. But, again, figure something else out. And I did also see today that the NFL is going to allow one player per team to participate in the 2028 Summer Olympics in flag football. Okay. All right. I'm going to go down the rabbit hole. Let's just go down here. All right. I remember very, very well watching James Harrison destroy Muhammad Massaquoi over the middle in that game. And it is often cited as one of the moments when the NFL knew it had a serious problem, that head injuries, there were already lawsuits coming from older players, and we saw it from other hits as well. But then, of course, that one made the cover of Sports Illustrated. And I've always wondered, as seemingly every single rule from that point on has punished the defense. Okay. Lowering the head, targeting, all this kind of crap that has gone on. And I really think that you aren't just seeing flag football in the during the Pro Bowl time just because. I think the NFL is very curious to see what it would look like as a real possible thing. Now, look, flag football is wonderful. I coached my son at it, back when he was a little guy. It's great, the jet sweeps and the motion and the orbit motion and all that fun stuff. And it's definitely become a huge thing for skill position athletes to get noticed by colleges and stuff. 7-on-7, type stuff is just booming in many parts of the country. But I that's my big fear And again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but man, it would not surprise me if someday that's what we're talking about for the NFL is flag football, to reduce the violence, to reduce the head injuries and everything else. And man, I hope I'm wrong about that, but I do not like the idea of these guys playing in the Olympics. But at the same time, look, the NBA guys did it, and NHL players have done it. So I'm not going to get overly upset about it. It's just I find it curious. So let's just leave it at that. Anyway, I'm going to get on out of here. I'm over my 10-minute self-imposed limit. I never meet that. And don't forget, the SCB Steelers podcast presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated will be coming up on Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel. So we hope you check that out. And please, please, please get involved in the chat. We'd love to have you in there, whether you agree with us or not. As you saw from last week's show, we don't even agree with each other, and that's the best part of it, and why I feel we have such a great show. So thanks so much for paying attention to the SCB Steelers Inside Blitz, and we will see you hopefully on Thursday night. And hey, go Steelers.